Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about another type of trust that has a specialty use. We call it an ABC trust or a QTIP trust. Now, what this is, we've already talked about AB trust. So if you haven't looked at that video yet, looked at that one first, because I'm not going to go over the information that we had in that, but we're going to be adding to the AB trust. And just as a real short recap, that trust actually separates an estate into two different parts. One for the deceased spouse, one for the surviving spouse. The surviving spouse's trust is called the A trust or the survivor's trust. The deceased spouse's trust is called an exemption trust or a B trust. So what we do is once we've separated this, there are times where perhaps the deceased spouse may have children from a prior marriage, and he wants to make sure that the assets that he's leaving behind, at least some of them, no matter what happens, are going to go to his kids. So he's going to go ahead and create a third trust, a QTIP trust, that will own part of the assets that would have gone into the B trust. Now, this QTIP trust generally will make sure that the assets in the QTIP trust can be used by the spouse only up to as much as the income on those assets are. Now, the B trust, she could use the income and then also the principal if necessary. But in the QTIP trust, the surviving spouse can only use the income and the principal can never be touched. This is meant to make sure that although they're trying to take care of the surviving spouse, that principal will always be there for those kids. So generally, QTIP trusts are used for the protection of children from prior marriages. There are some other things that can be done. Doesn't expand the amount that you can give away as exemptable for estate tax, but it does make sure that that portion that's going to the deceased spouse's children will be exempt from estate taxes. Now realize that one of the things that happens when you have an AB trust or an ABC, like we're talking about right now, is that the assets that are in the B and the C trust will not receive a step up in basis when the surviving spouse passes away. So if you were to have an A trust and a B trust and a C trust, and you put a property into each one of those, when the surviving spouse passes, the property that is held by the A trust, the survivor's trust, and remember, you can tell which is which. A is for the above ground spouse, B is for the below ground spouse. So it gives you an idea whose is whose. So when the surviving spouse passes away, the house in the A trust will get a step up in basis, which means that when the kids get that house, they will not have to pay capital gains tax on it because it will be treated by the taxing authorities as if the house had been purchased at current value. On the B trust and the C trust, because those weren't owned by the surviving spouse, the death of the surviving spouse does not give them a step up in basis. So when those properties go to the beneficiaries, the husband's or deceased spouse's assets going to his children, then when that happens, they will have to pay capital gains tax if they decide to sell the properties. So that's one of the things we can do to make sure that children from prior marriages are taken care of. There's some other things that can be done, used for, but that's the prior and most often used method or reason for using an ABC trust. So that's a little bit more knowledge for you in case you have children from prior marriages. Thank you very much, and we'll be talking to you again.